October meeting of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Chairperson Natalie Gore,
Present.
Vice Chairperson Amirtha Gavis is absent. Committee Member Frank McCulley,
I don't believe Frank's voice function is on.
I can see him and he is here. Continuing with roll call, Committee Member Christina Anderson.
Present.
And Committee Member Tommy Chang.
Present.
And that commences roll call. Thank you. A review of the agenda. Are there any, does the committee member have any question about what we're going to go over today?
I was unable, I'm traveling right now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. I'm traveling right now. I'm in Utah, and I was unable to open the attachment for the Southline project, but I can certainly join in the conversation.
Okay, great. Are we going to display the attachment when we get to it on Zoom, over Zoom? Okay, great. So it should be covered, Frank. You should be able to see it.
I couldn't open it either for whatever reason.
Okay. All right. Do we have public comment, or did we receive any comment cards?
No, we have not received any comments from the public.
Great. So the next item is approval of the minutes from our last meeting, September 2nd, 2020.
I don't mean to be nitpicky, but did they really have a public meeting on the slurry seal on the 4th of July in 2018?
Yes, that's what was noted in the presentation provided by Angel Torres from engineering.
Okay.
I was surprised also.
Okay, if there are no comments or amendments to the minutes, may I have a motion to approve the minutes from September 2nd?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right. May I have a second to approve? May I have a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
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 And opposed? Abstentions? The ayes carry. Next, we move to administrative business. The first item is the Southline specific plan.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson Gore. Chris Espiritu, Senior Planner with the Planning Division. I'm actually here to introduce our project to review tonight. Apologies if you weren't able to see the slide deck that was provided by the applicant, but we will be covering that tonight for everyone to look at and comment on and discuss. So I actually wanted to then, in the interest of time, just toss it over to Marcus Gilmore, lead for the project for Southline.
Thank you, Chris. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, members of the BPAC committee for joining tonight. I hope everyone's enjoying a little bit of some cooler weather today. We're excited to present our Southline project to you. It's a 2.5 million square foot transit-oriented project, very close to Bart in San Bruno and the shops at Tanforan Mall, and also close to the Caltrain station in San Bruno. Tonight with me is members of the design team. They're going to go through the specifics of the project with you and highlight some of the focus on pedestrian and bike safety. In terms of the process, we've started the EIR process, and we're going through the planning review process with Adina and Salish and their team. The project is a office and biotech focused project. There will be public retail, with the project, approximately 20,000 square feet and over 7 acres of open space. And with that, I will pass it off to Dawn Judkins at DES to give an overview of the project.
Thanks, Marcus. Good evening, everybody, Chair and committee members. I'm Dawn Judkins with DES Architects. I'm here with Donna Shaw. We represent the design team. Our primary focus is initial design and entitlements. So we've been working on the project for quite some time now. We also have Mike Mowry here from Kimley Horn. So I'm going to kick off the conversation very briefly and then turn it over to Mike to talk to you in more detail about the facilities. But Mike, could you share the presentation? And Marcus, you've taken out my first 2 paragraphs, so it's going to be very brief.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. And if we could just go to the next slide, that would be great. So we wanted to start with a vicinity map to familiarize you with the location of the project. As Marcus said, we're looking at 26 acres. This is kind of the blue box in the middle of the screen there. We're directly adjacent to Tamparan Mall and the Bart, the San Bruno Bart station, and approximately equidistant, maybe a little bit further from South City, but right kind of halfway between the 2 Caltrain stations that you can see there with the red logo. We're a tech office, life science project, approximately 2.6 million square feet. If we could just move to the next slide, actually, Mike, that would probably be best. So we're 6 buildings. 3 of those buildings are 6-story buildings. 3 of them are 7-story buildings. And in addition, at the intersection of Huntington and Sneath, we have our amenities building. It's an 88,000 square foot tenant amenity building. And that's also the location of the ground floor public retail that Marcus had mentioned earlier. The project includes some major street improvements and enhanced pedestrian and bicycle facilities. The biggest of those would be the new Southline Avenue project. It's a proposed east-west connection that connects the Sneath Lane intersection to Linden Avenue to the east. Along with these roadway improvements, we'd also have the enhanced pedestrian and bicycle facilities and connectivity to Bart specifically, as well as the Centennial Trail that currently either terminates or starts, whichever way you look at it, at the intersection of Huntington and Sneath. And I think at this point it's probably best to turn it over to Mike to get into a bit more detail on what those facilities look like.
Great, thank you, Dawn. Hi, Mike Mowry from Kimley Horn Associates. Good evening, Chair Gore and committee members. I wanted to take you through some of the transportation elements that the project is proposing, both as part of the project as well as the surrounding roadways and pedestrian and bicycle network. My focus on this project has been those transportation connections. And so this obviously gives you an overall site plan. You'll see this image in different forms as we go throughout the other slides as well. The first slide that I wanted to present on the screen is the overall pedestrian, and this is the bikeway map for the city. We've shown our project site here at the southern edge of the city as it borders San Bruno. I think what's, and we'll zoom into that here in a second because I'm sure it's even smaller on your screens right now. But I think what's important to really see as you look at this plan is that for good reason, which is the current kind of street and trails and pedestrian pathway layout in this area, is that there really was a lack of connection really in this part of the city between some of the generally north-south oriented pedestrian bicycle facilities, as showing the bikes facilities, from El Camino into the downtown area. And that was really in large part due to the properties and their delineations in this area. As part of this project, which is what Don just talked about, really is to make that connection for both vehicles, peds and bikes, to improve that connectivity in this area for the project as well as for all users in this area. I'm going to actually stop for a second because I realize as you look, those that are familiar with the project are used to talking about this, but for those that aren't, seeing the diagrams of the project layout may be a little confusing. So I stopped sharing the presentation for a moment, and I'm just sharing a Google image with Chrome. But so what you're familiar as you think about the street grid in this area is as Sneath comes in, and then it makes this kind of hook turn onto Huntington, and there's no real roadway system in this area. And so as you're looking at the graphics that we're presenting tonight, it is really continuing to make this connection kind of horizontally, diagonally between this area and over to Linden. And so as you look at these graphics, and maybe you're trying to find where you are because these streets that we're talking about don't exist today, that's the Southline connection that we're talking about through the remainder of those graphics. And then, so let me move back to the presentation. Okay, so now we've, this graphic is now zoomed in really on the bike plan and taken elements of the bike plan that's near the site and shown as they would exist around the site area. As we talked about, this is kind of a nice location point at Sneath and around the Tam shops. And then that connection I was just talking about really coming over, making Huntington and the new Southline excuse me, Avenue connection, a significant intersection and gateway into the area, and then connecting over with Linden in areas to the east. What you'll see here is that Southline Avenue includes new bicycle lanes, as well as in the next slide you'll see pedestrian facilities. But this slide is really talking about the bicycle facilities included with the project and then on the adjacent roadways. So along Southline Avenue, including new type 2 bike lanes on the roadway. There are some existing bike lanes along Linden, which are shown in the bike plan themselves. Continuing the bike lanes that from this new Huntington intersection over to the Tam area, and then finally making that connection and extending the Centennial Trail down to the Bart Station area. The next slide is about the pedestrian connections. And so this is showing the new sidewalk locations along the project frontages. You may hear the team talk a little bit about a phase 1 and full build out of the project. Phase 1 is this bottom part of the project below Southline Avenue. And then the remaining build out would be at the top part, just in case you hear the team refer to it in that way. But sidewalks all along Southline Avenue, really bordering throughout the project along Linden and Dollar, Maple Avenue as well, adding some sidewalks in along Tam Avenue and near the residential area, and then improving or replacing sidewalks for that connectivity to the Bart area. Zooming in on this area a little, oh, sorry, I did mean to note on this slide, we haven't necessarily highlighted all of the pedestrian and bicycle facilities on the project site. These are the front doors to the buildings, so we're showing kind of the public access sidewalks to those lobby areas. Within the site itself, there are sidewalks and then shared roadway, internal driveway facilities for cyclists. Zooming in on this connectivity to Bart, we felt like, again, for this area of the city, as well as for San Bruno residents, improving that connectivity to the Bart access was really important, as well for the project users and tenants as well. So this intersection, you'll see some other slides here, has new sidewalks and bicycle lanes throughout. We are using kind of the latest practice of the green bike lanes, and what you're probably familiar with is type 39A striping, which helps extend that striping through the intersection and improving bicycle visibility throughout. And then finally, really continuing that Centennial Trail proper through this new intersection and down to the Bart access area. So this is a graphic. I'll explain what orientation we're in because we just kind of turned in the world a little bit. And so left in this graphic is north. This on the right corner of the graphic, this is kind of a peekaboo of the BART station, obviously in a massing diagram, not exactly as it looks. And so the Centennial Trail would be coming from where it is today, left to right in this image. So extending, this is where it would, generally its termination today, extending here through the intersection, and then further through into the BART access. What you also will see here as we go kind of down and into the image is this is the new Southline Avenue. So we have the bike lanes that are also new along Southline as it makes its connection with Sneath. And then as we're both in the intersection and approaching the intersection, using what's becoming kind of the new standard for bike lane striping within an intersection, which is the green 39A detail, which is kind of a skip lane through the intersection. This graphic does that a little bit more of an aerial view, but has exactly the same information. We are back to north being up, so that makes it a little bit easier. But again, showing those same details in how the bikeways and pedestrian sidewalks will connect through this new kind of gateway along Southline Avenue, and then connect ultimately with the BART facility in areas further to the west. I'll run through these images pretty quickly. They're essentially roadway, street, and bike sections along Southline Avenue. Generally, what I would describe, so there's an understanding, is that Southline itself is generally 2 lanes of vehicular traffic in each direction. At the central intersection for the project, there's a turn lane to enter the project as well from both directions. And so that's what you're seeing in essentially this section where you're seeing 5 cars wide in the graphic. That's a center turn lane to enter the project. And then along Southline, we have the bike lanes, and then we have wide sidewalk areas as well. What you'll see in this graphic, which might be a little, a little bit harder to understand, is that there is basement subterranean parking as part of the project. So kind of just outside those sidewalk areas, it's why you see those cars that look below ground. They are planned to be below ground. And then if I share some of those same sections as we get close to the Southline and Huntington intersection, talking again about the approach here on Southline, you have that cross section where you have 2 travel lanes for vehicles, a turn lane. The bike lanes continue through the intersection, again with wider sidewalks. If you continue up northerly on Maple, you start to, come over here where you have the Centennial Trail on your left along the BART tunnel corridor. We do have a landscaped edge to both sides of the roadway, 2 lanes in each direction for vehicular traffic, and then pedestrians adjacent to the site. We've continued to retain the Centennial Trail shared use path facility width, both in this section of the site, as well as it continues down to BART as well, which is what you're seeing in section C, is the walkway, which really is the Centennial Trail, Huntington Avenue, a median, and then this is a left-turning vehicle going north. So really trying to surround this area as much as possible to provide all these multimodal connections to travel both through the area as well as to use BART as an origin destination for people traveling in the area. And then the last couple graphics are additional illustratives of the project. This is looking at Southline Avenue from the Huntington Southline intersection. So this would be a perspective generally from this corner, the southeast corner of the project, looking down Southline Avenue at the project. And as Marcus talked about some of the public amenity areas, they are there at that corner, and that's what you're seeing in this image. And then another image along Southline Avenue. This would be from the south side of Southline Avenue, looking across, looking at some of the proposed architecture, some of the illustrative of what that may look like, looking at the north edge of Southline Avenue. And that's all the slides we had to present tonight. Certainly we're available to answer any questions or add additional details that you may want to understand. Thank you, Chair.
Are there any questions from the members?
Maybe I couldn't tell from the photos, but was there like a pickup, drop-off zone for you know, Lyft, Uber drivers in this area?
Sorry, gosh darn it, my computer's trying to do too many things at once. Was the question about within the project or
Yeah.
within the public?
I was just curious.
Yep.
Because, you know, as Lyft and Uber become popular, I'm just wondering, is
Yep.
there like some easy pickup zones that don't disrupt traffic?
There is. So for the project, if we look closer at the project site, anticipating that this project will also have shuttles that may serve it that helped tenants get to Caltrain. It's a good question. Thank you to understand the rest of the site. There are some shuttle stop locations that we've located both on the southern half of the site, which is here just below building B7, if you can see my cursor, as well as additional shuttle areas adjacent here to the large central plaza and one of the parking structures. For the Uber and Lyft, we did imagine that area being here, just again, adjacent to this kind of larger gathering plaza area for the overall project. So we have planned on that happening within the project.
Are there any other questions from the members?
I reiterate the concern about the Uber and Lyft and other delivery type services. The new apartment building we have at Baden Airport, if anybody can picture that, the main entrance door is at the corner of Baden Airport, and delivery, Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, etc., all stop on Baden Avenue in the slow lane at the intersection and create chaos. So I was concerned about some of these main entrances being on Southline Avenue, and if that's going to be a busy street, and you have people stopping there to deliver stuff into the front door of these apartment buildings, I could see that being an issue. Personally, I wish that the entrance to the apartments at Baden and Linden entrance would have been on Cypress Avenue or something out of the main flow of traffic. So it's a concern for future buildings, making sure that front door isn't at a nuisance spot for drop off and pickup, or even for people getting furniture delivered.
Understood, Committee Member Macaulay. So the office use or potentially lab use of these buildings, we still would anticipate some Uber and Lyft use, which is why we provided that area. Maybe a little bit less of the food service drop off that you noted. That said, you know, with a project this size, and since we have a dedicated location, what we've been doing on a lot of projects is working with those companies to geofence where the drop-off and pickup zone is. And so how that works with their system is when they would get a call for this proximity, it would tell, if you think about an airport as a comparison to this, it would tell the Uber drivers as well as the person requesting the service where they should meet. And we would have it designated at that location.
Yeah. I see a lot more control in this environment than in an apartment environment.
That is true, and obviously this is a big enough project that we can work to do that geofencing to make that activity happen more efficiently.
Yeah, thank you.
So I have a couple of questions. This is a large-scale building project. So are you tearing down some current structures to put this in?
Correct, and Don, if you want to give the details, but there is existing light industrial and office uses in this location, and the demolition of those uses would be part of the project.
Okay.
Yeah, mostly single story. I think a lot of kind of trucking activity type uses in the area. So all of that would indeed have to be demolished for the project to take place.
And how do you anticipate that that's going to affect current usage on the Centennial Trail?
In terms of the demolition and construction activities,
Right.
there should be no interruption of that flow of traffic, of pedestrian and bicycle traffic.
Okay. And then So I'm having a little difficulty understanding where this new road is going to connect to.
Okay.
I know that, because there's nothing there now, and from what I'm envisioning from what is there are homes, there's a sidewalk area, and then there are homes.
Yeah, Mike, could you share the Google map again? And I can draw over the top of the Google map where the extents of the project are, and I think that would be really helpful. Yeah, it's a good question. It's kind of a sea of buildings right now. So let me draw here.
Mike, are you able to remove the labels on the
Yes.
Google map? I think if you go to the top left where the bar is, the horizontal bars.
Yep, that's right. Sorry.
Labels on up top.
Drawing.
See where it says satellite?
There we go. Yes. Sorry. There we go.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
How am I doing?
We don't see you drawing at all. Probably because
I think it's because it's one continuous stroke.
Oh wait, no, there you go.
Did it
You
come
just
up?
popped up. Yep.
Okay. So this is the extents of the project, and this is
Oh, Dawn, it goes. There's more.
You got to go up another.
You got 160 Linden.
325 Maple.
Yeah.
this one.
Yep. And 325 Maple.
And yeah,
All the little
sorry.
buildings to the
Sorry.
left there of the big building.
My bad.
There you go.
Right here, right?
Got it.
Okay. I knew it was big. And then this is the city limit for San Bruno down here. So Tanforan Avenue is in fact in South San Francisco. The residences are in San Bruno.
Okay.
And so this is the Sneath-Huntington connection, and then South Maple, like so. And then this is Linden. So our new intersection is kind of coming in something like so, connecting into these streets.
Okay.
And then the roadway is coming through the project crudely, like so,
Mm-hmm.
and connecting into the at-grade crossing at Linden.
So as I understand it, this is the Centennial Trail. So we'll cross the current Centennial Trail.
So the Centennial Trail currently, yes, you're right. There will be some reconfiguration of the last piece of the Centennial Trail. So the Centennial Trail is going to come down. So the construction of the intersection, yes, will need to accommodate some diversion of the Centennial Trail so we can make sure we maintain that connection.
And then, so how are you going to connect the Centennial Trail to the Bart, or how is that flow going to happen?
Yeah, so let's maybe go to the
Yep.
exhibit that you had, Mike.
Let me stop sharing that one.
Yeah.
Go back over.
Thanks for your help with the project boundary. It's a team effort.
And I will, come on. I think that one's probably the best.
Yeah.
Okay. So generally, right now, Chair Gore, the green area that Dawn just had on the last image that would be replaced on the Centennial Trail would be about this portion.
Okay.
That I'll use my little higher. So about that portion will be replaced, and then we're extending it through the intersection with the wide crosswalk, and then extending it down to the BART tracks for that full type 1 multi-use path width.
So that would be sidewalks and bicycle lanes?
Yeah, just as the Centennial Trail is today, it ranges, but at a minimum of 12 feet wide, which is a Caltrans designation for type 1 multi-use path. That would be the same width that would retain through the extension that we're noting.
And are you planning to extend the Centennial Trail somehow into the actual development? Or is it just
No, it would remain on the west edge of Maple Avenue in this area. But then we, as Don just drew on the image, we would connect pedestrians from the project with a crosswalk kind of mid-block through the north half of the project, and then the southern half of the project would use Southline Avenue facilities to access the Bart and access the Centennial Trail.
How would bicyclists flow into your project from Centennial Trail?
So if I go to, actually the best one is probably this image. So this is the Centennial Trail, the extension of it. That just outside this image would be that mid-block crossing, which it's not going to let me do too much outside the image, but we'll say is there. So that would be a crossing, a pedestrian crossing across Maple. Would require a dismount because it would be a pedestrian and bicycle shared facility, but would enter the north half of the project. And then cyclists from the north half could also use the central intersection, which is farther down, but here, and then access the bike lanes. There's all these, the bike lanes are along Southline Avenue. So cyclists can use those new bike lanes, use them to cross the Sneath intersection, and then connect with the trail at this location. The tenants that are on the south side of the project, which is where there is an amenities building for the project as well, could use these pathways. Likely they would use the internal pathways through the next to the amenities building and just enter the area at this corner, and then use the crosswalk to access the Bart and the Centennial Trail connection.
Okay. So for bicycle parking, where do you see that that will happen on the project currently?
Thank you, Chair Gore, because you brought up something I should have covered in one of our graphics. So what is on here, we've shown bike symbols where the project anticipates bike parking, bike lockers for the project. Obviously the project is in conceptual design phase, so these may be moved slightly, but we think these are generally the best location near the elevator and elevator lobby areas. So generally each office building has bicycle storage located adjacent to it or in the first basement level. Remember that many of these buildings have underground parking, so there'll be bike lockers in that parking area, and then adjacent to the elevators, so that tenants, employees can use the elevators and then access the lobby areas. In this area of the project, those bike lockers would be located in the parking structure itself, in locked bike rooms, instead of in the office buildings specifically. And then there is as part of the overall site design, there is a large amenities building as well for all the tenants to use. And there's bicycle facilities in that area, as well as a planned publicly accessible bicycle kiosk that we foresee having a bike mount and some tools to do bike repairs for both project tenants as well as likely the public based on the location of it.
And this includes the retail area? I'm not sure where that is.
Yeah, so the retail area is really kind of the fronting piece of this building, even though it's called B2 Amenities. It's the Southline facing facade, those areas at the ground level.
Okay. And then we often ask this about projects. Are you anticipating putting a bicycle repair station in the project at all? Or
that was one of the last times this listed. That is anticipated right now here at the southeast corner of Huntington and Southline Avenue for that repair station.
And I guess, and please, other members, if you have questions, just chime in. I don't want to hog the whole process, but my other question is, I wasn't sure of the width of the sidewalks, and then I'm a little concerned about how foot traffic and bicycle traffic will move smoothly in the new roadway, considering it's going to be it seems to be kind of wide and large. Are the sidewalks, are the areas where we have intersections, are those going to be extended sidewalks so that pedestrians can safely stand at those intersections?
Mike, maybe you
So-
could talk about which intersections are proposed to be signalized as a precursor.
So, sorry, let me make sure my slide, sorry. So yeah, so I think that's a good summary, first of all. So this intersection is already signalized, the intersection of Huntington and Sneath. The project is proposing to signalize the new intersection of Southline, Huntington, and Maple. And then this central intersection to the project is also a signalized location, and as well as the Linden Dollar intersection. So those pedestrian and bicycle movements will be controlled by a traffic signal, as well as the vehicular movements, which adds a certain level of safety. You asked about the
Bulb outs
so we're not anticipating, yes, I think so your question would be at the intersections, are we narrowing kind of the crossing length? Again, at those crossings, they will be controlled, so they'll have crosswalks, they'll have pedestrian heads in order for pedestrians to utilize and cross, as well as really prohibit vehicular movements that may conflict with pedestrians. So we feel like that control is sufficient. Really, the only location that isn't proposed at this time to be a full signal is this pedestrian crossing on Maple. And we do anticipate that being at least a pedestrian controlled function, either kind of the rectangular rapid flashing beacons, which are kind of, the signs that have the fast blinkers on them, thus the rapid name. So that it is controlled as well, so that vehicular traffic yield to pedestrians in those locations. Sorry, I just want to answer the first part of your question, which is about sidewalks. Along Southline Avenue, most of the sidewalks are proposed at about 9 feet with a landscaped buffer. Depending on some corners and so on, that width may vary, but there are substantial sidewalks along the project.
Okay. And I do have one question. San Bruno, Tanforan now, I don't know how to ask this, but Tanforan now is so close to the San Bruno parking, to San Bruno, that a lot of people, it's not a problem now because not many people are using Bart, but prior to that, a lot of people, rather than pay for parking at the Bart station, would use Tanforan to park kind of free.
Mm-hmm.
And so that that brought a lot of traffic down. And I see that you're going to have a lot of parking that, if it's open, it might encourage people to come and park over there and walk to the Bart. Have you thought about that and how to deal with any traffic you might have from that kind of activity?
I mean, we're not at the design stage that we've talked specifically about parking controls. I think we've anticipated the same potential concern, though, Chair Gore, and parking controls will likely be considered somehow in the project. Whether that's specifically gates or not is still to be determined.
Okay, I'm just concerned. Go ahead.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, I think because the majority of our parking is below grade, it's not as accessible, I would say. I think a lot of that kind of convenience parking is when you've got large surface parking lots and you can kind of feel, like you're kind of fitting in. In our case, the majority of the parking is either in the large parking structure, which is in this kind of corner of the site, or it's below grade. So there would actually be a garage entrance like this one, for instance, here and here. So not conveniently accessible from, kind of the Bart side of the project. So I think I think even though we haven't really talked about controls at this point, I think the convenience factor is not there.
My concern was that it would bring excess traffic
I
and
see.
then impinge on bicycle and pedestrians
Mm.
because it's a happy spot for potential free parking.
Yeah, it's a good point.
That's all the questions I have. Are there any questions among the other members?
Chair Gore, this is Chris. Committee member Anderson actually passed some questions to me. So just to clarify with the applicant and the project team, if you would be widening any existing sidewalks, and again, how wide are the new sidewalks that you are proposing?
So thank you for the question. If I show you here, there are some new and replaced sidewalks along this this new section of Huntington, and so those are shown here in a blue kind of light purple color, depending on how it's coming through on your screen. And then, sorry, clicked. Oh, geez. And then again, the extension of Centennial Trail itself would have it at a minimum the 12-foot shared use past that designation width. So those are the main additions, replacements, as well as I think there's some small segments here just to make this connection that would be replaced. Sorry, and here being on Sneath. Sorry, I understand I'm highlighting on screen. Here being on Sneath itself.
Actually, if I could add to that, the existing sidewalks on Maple are going to be widened slightly. They're currently like 5.5 feet. They're going to go to 7. And the existing sidewalks fronting the projects on Dollar and Linden will also be widened to 7-foot sidewalks.
So we're talking about this edge. Oh gosh, that's bad. This edge, right? And then also this location. Is that
Correct.
what you're driving, Brock?
Correct.
Are there other questions?
If I may step back, the intersection of Sneath and Huntington, you're changing the configuration to make it to change the continuation of Huntington to turn it as a right turn instead of kind of as a flow. Am I seeing that right?
Oh, I was going to draw on that.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. I think it might be easier to go over the top of the map that we were on. But, go ahead.
You want to do it on this map?
Sure.
Go ahead.
You know, currently it just kind of follows the contour like so, I believe, something along these lines. And then this roadway,
You don't have it.
and then Maple comes down and connects into, what is this street called, Mike? The one that runs on the west side of the residences?
The west side of the,
Huntington frontage, is it?
It's still Huntington, right? But there's
Huntington
a
Avenue East.
separation.
yeah, Huntington Avenue East.
Yeah. So this is the existing kind of connection, which is completely separate from, you know, this kind of secondary circulation east of that. So yes, we're creating this intersection, which ultimately has then Maple and Sneath and Huntington, and then the new Southline Avenue all connected at a 4-way.
I got you. All righty. My other comment would be about the other end of Southline as it hits Linden Avenue at the railroad tracks there and Dollar Avenue, that intersection. The railroad tracks are going to be, there's going to be a grade change, right? Caltrain is apparently in the process of doing a grade separation.
Yeah, so and city staff can probably better inform, but the city does have a project in process where they're looking at a grade separation for that location. This project is aware of that, and we'll incorporate that into the design if it goes forward. But in the interim, without that grade separation, you would see the improvements that are on the screen here with bike lanes up to that crossing.
Okay.
Yes, if I could add, the project has been working with city staff to develop a project in which it can accommodate a future at-grade crossing based on some alternatives that were presented in the community meetings. And so we have created and programmed a development that can accommodate their preferred option for the at-grade crossing. And as I understand it, there's currently no funding for those at-grade crossings, which they're working on. And so until then, we are developing a project that will be able to utilize the existing at-grade crossing. And once that project does get funded and gets designed, then they can still incorporate that at-grade or that grade separation project with the proposed programming.
Yeah, can I jump in? This is Adina from the city. I just want to kind of reiterate what Eric said about the time frame. It's very likely that this project, the Southline project, will be under construction and operational ahead of the grade crossing. So we're requiring that it's designed in a way that will be able to, operate now under current conditions, and then also accommodate the grade crossing if and when it is constructed.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Thank you very much for this presentation.
Thank you for your time.
It's going to be a major change over there, and I look forward to seeing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Gore and committee members.
Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda. The BPAC support letters. If you could, I've signed a couple of support letters, and I've asked that they be brought to the committee's attention. And also, if we could give an update on if the projects were funded or not, that would be great too.
Sure thing. Let's start with actually the first one that we had signed. We'd have BPAC lended support too. So give me a moment to pull that up. And just to note, Southline project team, thank you for your time. You can log off now.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
we thought you were going to give us a support letter. So we'll wait for that.
We'll give you project comments. The
Okay.
BPAC will give you project comments first, then support letter later.
Okay.
We'll take project comments. That sounds
Yeah.
good. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
All right. So back in September, we actually had we brought our colleagues at Public Works and Engineering had alerted us that the city was going to go for a limited time grant funding from MTC and funded through CCAG, all related to the Transportation Fund for Clean Air. And I believe in one of our meetings, Bianca Liu had discussed with us some East of 101 bicycle safety projects, and one of them was to do the bike detection, bike detection equipment that was going to be installed on certain intersections throughout the city. So that was one of the projects that BPAC had lent its support towards into applying for that grant. And what I touched base with Bianca from engineering this afternoon, and actually this is one of the projects that is going to be recommended to the CCAG board, and it will be funded in the next few weeks or up to a month. So the city was successful in getting this grant. So that is the first update. So thank you, Chair Gore and Vice Chair Thagavis for taking a look at that and getting us that the support, because the city did receive this grant. So once we are closer to implementation, I would have Bianca from engineering come back and give us an update on how they're progressing with this project. And then the second part was that last month we had another project, which is for the, another active transportation program grant that was being applied for by the city to further progress the traffic improvements on Hillside and Lincoln. And a lot of this is related to bicycle and pedestrian facility improvements that will be installed along Hillside and Lincoln. This includes adding traffic signals, curb extensions, and signalized crosswalks on locations where there was none or something that needed to be expanded. And all of this was to improve pedestrian safety and connectivity in this area. So that one is still up for review. We do not have any updates on whether or not the city has received this grant funding. And once we do, we'll make sure to update BPAC. And yeah, that was the update for that one.
Okay. Any comments? Great. Thank you for the update. It's
Sure.
good. I'm glad we have that. The first one, we were able to get the grant. That's great.
Yeah. So part of the issue is that they come in like so quickly. So I do appreciate Chair Gore for getting them back to our colleagues in engineering in a fairly quick turnaround time, because we'll try to make sure to steer them towards getting us these information and the project information a little bit ahead of time for the next grants that we do apply for.
So the next start, did we receive any emails from the public?
No, we've not received any emails from the public.
Okay. Then committee comments. I just wanted to, I see that committee member Sherman, it looks like he's resigned from the board or is no longer on the board.
Yes, according to our records, I believe his term was up mid-summer. So I did just note on that last letter, his name was still there. And we have removed his name from the agendas as they are going out. So currently we have 2 vacancies on this committee.
Well, I bring up committee member Sherman in particular because he was on the committee for a very long time and was instrumental in looking at it and making suggestions on a lot of the projects. So I was wondering if it were possible, and I don't know if you've done this, if we could either send him a letter thanking him for his service or certificate or something like that, so that he knows that we appreciate having his input on the board.
Mm-hmm. No, certainly we can work on that and reach out to him and let him know that his contributions and his presence on this team and this committee was very much appreciated. Or actually see if he wanted to resign again and be a member of this committee. That certainly is an option. So, but we'll work on that recognition and thanks, and reach out to him.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from any other members?
I'd just like to say thank you, Natalie, for helping out and during our meetings by signing those letters of support for the different projects. I certainly support everything that you've done so far, but I think you're doing a great job too. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. So are there any comments? If there are no further meetings from committee members, are there any comments from the staff?
I don't believe staff has any comments at this point. Yeah. With regards to changing the meeting times, we haven't progressed on that issue either. So we'll keep you posted once we take up that effort again. Just a quick note on the bike and ped master plan. Staff is working with our consultant to correct and update the most recent draft from March and bring that back to BPAC, possibly closer in our December meeting. and because we will be working with the consultant throughout October and November on getting that next draft ready and get it on a path to be shown on BPAC and Planning Commission for approval.
Okay. Great. Oh, I guess we're coming to the end of the meeting. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn the meeting.
May I have a second? Tommy, would you like to make a second? Or Christina?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Abstentions? Have a great October. Happy Halloween.
Thank you.
See you next month.
Good night, everybody.
All right. Aye.